thank you for agreeing to do an interview, Ambassador. It's obviously a very tumultuous time in the Middle East. Probably just before you actually start, I mean, you mentioned before that your family's obviously in Tehran and things like that. I appreciate now. I understand that the internet's been cut off, so communications are a bit hard, probably at the best of times. What is the current sort of feedback you're receiving from your family and friends and colleagues and things like that?
First of all, as you are aware, the June 30th, at the early of Friday, we just noticed, in the dark of the night, we are under an unprovoked, attack, and without any notion and without any reason. So people, when they were sleeping at their home, just woke up with the just sound of, attacks, and just some of residential areas in Tehran were, just targeted by the Israeli regime and some military commanders of armed forces. That they were not in the battleground, but were sleeping at their home, were also targeted. And also important as it is, the nuclear facility for peaceful, just usage of Iran in Natanz and elsewhere, that they were safeguarded under the IAEA arrangement also was targeted. Then the Prime Minister of the Israeli regime just arrogantly and publicly declared that he has ordered such attacks. And based on the Charter of the United Nations, Chapter 4 and Article 2 of it, if just some player of international just attack another just nation of the United Nations, based on the Article 51 of the UN Charter, the just attacked nation does have the inherent just right to self-defense. Therefore, Iran reciprocated with the defensive measures against the military targets of just occupied Palestine. Therefore, the situation on the ground in Tehran is in a way that the ambulances, the hospital, residential area are indiscriminately attacked by Israel. And there is footage of a video that Netanyahu is giving order to the pilots that they are going to attack Iran by the aircraft, that say, just be concentrated on your targets. Don't worry. The civilians are killed, or children, of course they are, I can just show you. Therefore, we do believe, Iran believes that, since, this Israeli regime has attacked many just neighbors, and not only this attack against, Iran installation in 1981, again in years back, the Syria facilities was attacked by the Israeli also army, and in 1981 there was a resolution by United Nations just reminding and warning Israel. The resolution number 487 in 1981, Article 2, warned Israel not to repeat the attacks against the just nuclear facilities, because it does have hazards and just very danger for radiation in the just residential areas around. Therefore, we do believe the Israeli regime has done a lot of military conflicts in the region, occupied the Syrian territory recently, attacked a lot in Lebanon, and used the Syrian space to infiltrate inside Iran to attack us. Therefore, we believe this time Iran will not let this regime go unpunished for their just aggression, and we are continuing our defensive measures.
Probably starting on giving you the ambassador to Australia, and this morning we broke out the news that our embassy has been closed in Tehran because of the security situation. What's your view of how the Australian government has responded, and what should our response be? Noting that in the last couple of days it seems that Penny Wong in particular has strengthened language around putting the onus on Iran to be the one to give up its nuclear program and go back on the diplomatic path.
With regard to the Iran, there is an inalienable right, to use the nuclear, usage of facilities based on the NPT, arrangement, because Iran is an NPT member and is under the IAEA also safeguards. Therefore, we do believe nobody can just take the rights away from Iran as an NPT member to use the civilian use of nuclear power. Enrichment is also included in this right, and Iran has given all guarantees that the usage will be peaceful. Therefore, we do believe that the Australian government, as a peace-loving nation like Iran, should consider it based on the laws, not based on the approaches of some other players that they want us to impose, on Iran something. Therefore, I have just asked, the Australian government before, and now I just reiterate that we expect the Australian government first condemn, the Israeli unprovoked, attacks and war against our country. Then, as an NPT member, both Iran and Australia, they do have the right, to use the nuclear usage of civilian purposes. Therefore, this should be also recognized and be followed up. With regard also to the embassy in Tehran, we just sorry that the situation goes in that way. We were not, the initiator of the sort of, this conflict, and Israeli imposed the situation. We are, just fully prepared, to help to just evacuate those, Australians in Tehran, to give them facilities to go to the border. Since, the airports are closed, Iran, just facilitated 3 road, just passage through the Iraq, going to Najaf, Armenia, and going to Turkey through Istanbul. They can just go out, for the just going.
Do you know if Australians have been doing that route? Because the announcement today, they talked about Australians going out through Azerbaijan.
Yes, yes. Maybe that would be an option as well. We were in touch with our colleagues in DFAT here. We declared that it is possible to use also the facilities.
So you've been helping Australians?
Exactly, because they are just having a sort of consular, just contingency there. So we are helping there.
Yeah. Talking about, I understand your point about that Iran is legally allowed to use nuclear power for civilian purposes, but we had the IAEA quarterly report where the comment was essentially that you're having levels of enrichment of uranium that are not consistent with that sort of civilian purposes, for a non-nuclear weapon state.
Having a nuclear, just reactors does have needs the fuel. So therefore, Iran is going to have and has a lot of infrastructure. They have a lot of investment on that. They have a lot of research work, to get the knowledge and the know-how how to just produce fuel for the reactors. Therefore, from this point of view, having the capability to do this, just fuel is a right, okay? Then, there is not solely 3.7 or 3.6, just grade of the enriched uranium that is. There are also other isotopes that they are using for medical purposes, for other one. For example, we do have a reactor in Tehran that the US made in the 1975 in Iran. It used 95% in enriched uranium, for example. Mm-hmm. Therefore, having a higher percentage of uranium enriched does not, show, ipso facto that it is for military usage. Therefore, if there would be a sort of evidence or sort of on that, I am sorry to say that Mr. Rafael Grossi just yesterday confessed that Iran does not have a nuclear program for the military usage. Yesterday, in an interview, it was too late and too less after such a big, war that imposed on the hundreds of people were just killed, Therefore, I do believe Iran does have the right, and also based on the experiences that we had, we just invested in a consortium called Eurodif in 1975-76. 20% of the share belonged to Iran, but they did not give a little piece of uranium, even did not give back of money. So therefore Iran, based on the experiences of imposed, just sanctions, a lot of other experiences, and it is wants, to have to use its rights, to just apply its rights, for just civilian usages, to have the access to its own produced, really.
Yeah. Okay. What would be the impact if Australia offered sort of any moral or military support to the US to join strikes against Iran, noting that Donald Trump has sort of said, decimating as far as 2 weeks away, sort of stuff? Would that be a concern?
Any maybe wrong decision by the US administration to just enter to such a unwanted war that imposed by Netanyahu on the shoulder of others is totally, I believe, not wise from because this Netanyahu is notorious into just dragging the others, into the war that he had initiated for his own, just purposes. Domestically, maybe he's under pressure sometime, and they want to remove his government in Knesset, to initiate a war like that, and wants to get US in. From the same point of view, if an external player like this comes into this situation, it is very dangerous for the navigation in the Persian Gulf, the energy and the gas and oil, just resources in the region, and of course the very bad, ramification and impacts on NPT, because NPT does have not the one way that you have the commitment, but you have the right of it, right to use it. So if this happens, therefore, from initially, such a decision by the US is not wise. And they just recently, yesterday, they declared again that they are preferring diplomatic, just way and negotiation. We hope inshallah to go with, but Australia also as a peaceful and peace-loving nation and a trade, country that needs, the navigation of the trade, just facility vessels going to the area there in, for example, the Persian Gulf, going to Red Sea, the other. Therefore, we don't recommend, to just consider such a sort of maybe option. It's better, to just just friendly advice is that since Europeans are going to have a sort of a new maybe just breakthrough for that, I ask to support such diplomatic initiative that includes Iran peaceful, just right, of the nuclear, just facility, and also to de-escalate and also to end, such a conflict.
So Australia should support those diplomatic efforts
Exactly.
rather than support the US if there's a military.
Of course they are, just...
Because you think a US action would widen the conflict and involve...
Sure it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, okay. The point that Penny Wong makes around Iran giving up its nuclear program, you say though that's you're allowed to do it under international law, NPT and stuff. In light of that though, I mean, what is Iran prepared to give ground on as part of a diplomatic effort? I mean, if this is,
Exactly. My foreign minister, Dr. Araghchi, just recently again and again just announced that Iran is ready fully just give whatever guarantee that is technically needed to give that the program would be for nuclear civilian usage, and Iran does not go for the just maybe military aspect of it, but whatever may be technically needed. Therefore, Iran is ready to negotiate. And a very, very clear evidence of that is Iran was in the process of negotiation and was attacked by the Israeli regime. 5 rounds of talks between Iran and US exhausted in Muscat, in also Rome. The 6th round of it was just scheduled for the Sunday after, rather than the Friday we were attacked. Therefore, Iran do believe that, the nations, that most of them has done, to condemn, such a just unprovoked and illegal war that Israel just imposed on us. And also, they also support the diplomatic talks, the diplomacy for having a solution for Iran having its inalienable right for, and not, and also Iran time and again declared that the just nuclear, weapon is not, part of Iran doctrine, for the defense for that thing, because it does not need it, we are, just better off with the conventional, and as you see, and another good point that Iran can just, up to now, although the Israeli regime has attacked many installations of the civilian usage of nuclear program of Iran in Iraq, in Natanz, in Isfahan, all around, that they could fight. Iran still has not, reciprocated against, the facilities yet, because Iran wants, to self-restraint as much as possible. Therefore, these are the signs that I just ask, Honorable, anyone to consider, Iran is not the source of threat. Iran's program is not source of threat. Iran's also missile program is not threat, because we were attacked, in the Saddam era. Of course, maybe you have read if you could not.
In the 80s? Yeah.
No, as the attack by in the 1980 by Saddam Hussein,
yeah.
and 8-year war.
Yeah.
Yes, we did not have anything at that time to defend ourselves, because after revolution, just after that. So Iran has the defense, just equipment, defense capability for defending itself. In 400 years from now back, Iran has not, just invaded any country. Iran is a peaceful nation. Iran is, the center of the peace in the region. So therefore, for example, in Afghanistan, a lot of, just maybe problem arose, 4 maybe million of them refuged, in Iran. Therefore, we advise, all nations to consider that, and also Australia among them the same way.
Yeah. Although it's not just Israel that has concerns about the nuclear program, is you know, in the US, you talk about diplomacy going on. I mean, Trump had imposed a 60-day deadline, which Iran hadn't met. There was a sense, you know, it seems from, you know, the Americans felt like Iran was stringing them on, and it was not serious about, or it was insincere in reaching an agreement over its nuclear program.
You know, the agenda, I mean, the modality of the negotiation is also important.
Mm-hmm.
When, you know, you are going to impose something illegal against Iran, of course Iran does not accept to forgive its, you know, just inherent, you know, rights. If we are using the language of logic, the language of wisdom, that we are an NPT member and we do have the right to use nuclear peaceful just facilities. Therefore, if US or Mr. Trump is going to put the language of force, you know, to impose, the negotiation does not go ahead. Therefore, as you said, we were not supposed to do not meet, you know, the diplomatic, you know, just exigencies. We had 5 rounds of it in 60 days, as you mentioned, but we did exchange a lot of concept paper about that to just find a way that Iran use its just peaceful, you know, enrichment, at the same time not go for the nuclear, you know, just maybe military aspect of it. It is very clear. Therefore, I do believe if US comes out, you know, from the pressure of the Israel, you know, just lobby and instigation, we can find, you know, very good solutions.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Just going back to this point around enrichment beyond what is regarded as, you know, standard for civilian purposes. So you say, I think you've got the IAEA report says you've got about 400 odd kilograms of uranium at 60% enrichment. What are you using that for?
You know, I told you theoretically speaking, the percentage of uranium by itself does not indicate that for example, nuclear bomb is going to make out of it. But Iran just had an arrangement called JCPOA in 2015, and Iran did all of its commitment under that. But US went out of it, and European partners also did not just made their commitments. So therefore, Iran did not have any just option up to that do some of the rights that you could. But this main purpose of Iran is the civilian usage of it, be in the medical radioisotopes or the fuel for the reactors. Therefore, Iran is fully ready to have arrangement for this also. Maybe to reuse it, you know, for the, maybe again downgrade it, for example, if it needed for the reactors. Therefore, Iran open to the negotiation.
Okay. Israel, for a ceasefire, has said its 2 conditions are give up the nuclear program and give up the ballistic missile program, for Iran to do that. What are the demands or conditions that Iran sort of wants for a ceasefire, especially in light of also President Trump saying, you know, it needs to be an unconditional surrender on your part. What are the...
You know, first of all, Israel is not in a way to put any condition because it is the aggressor. It is on the position of imposing, you know, the war against Iran. Therefore, we do not consider any just condition from Israel, and we will continue to bring, you know, Israel punished, you know, and also bring to justice, you know. And Israel's way, as you are maybe fully aware, wants to be free hand to attack just the countries and go, you know, just unpunished, you know. But this time is not, and they observe that Iran could, you know, defend itself how. But with regard to other nations that we are recognized them is like US and, you know, other partners, Europeans. If they condemn, you know, Israel and make arrangements based on the UN Security Council resolutions that just hinder and prevent Israel and just regard Iran, damages that, how, imposed on us. We are ready, to, and also have the Israeli to stop, the attacks on us. Then we are just ready also to negotiate to de-escalate as well.
So what they would, do you want, obviously you want Israel to stop their missile strikes, but what are you prepared to sort of offer as the grounds for a ceasefire?
Yes, but it is obvious that we did not initiate and we did not attack. Israel last year attacked our embassy in the Syria. Although and despite the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Affairs that does have the immunity for that, and also attacked quite a few times in Syria our just military counselors that they were there. We did not attack the reciprocated in that way to kill their, for example, diplomats. But it is a rogue, and does not accept the legal, and the international law. So Iran has not initiated any attacks, against any player. Therefore, if international organization, as the Security Council is the main one, to just have the arrangement to punish Israel for their attacks, and just impose, the peace and full situation in a way that Iran would be immune from any other attacks. It would be also a way that we can consider.
Yeah. You say though that Israel's the aggressor, but they obviously feel that Iran is a threat, that it's provocative through things like either support of Hamas or Hezbollah, through the nuclear program. You see the regular, death to Israel chants, threats against the Zionist regime, things like that. What do you say all that is?
The Palestine resistance is not a matter of, for example, today or yesterday. It's a 75 year. The occupation of the territories. They do have the right for self-governance. They do have the right to have the states. Although Iran did not go for the two-state solution, but a lot of time the U.S. administrations consecutively and European state, they were talking of two-state solution, but the Israeli government not only did not, just give this option, as well, just a lot of other settlement in the West Bank, just illegally, just arise again. 700,000 new, just people came in their settlements and just ruined, in Gaza, they had, such, nothing let, the food and other things come in. Therefore, we don't believe that such claims, that raised by the Israeli regime since 2020, since 2002, Netanyahu all the time said that Iran is within months to have a nuclear weapon. Within months. The 2025, repeating, the same lie again and again. Just Tulsi Gabbard, the director of U.S. intelligence, said in just May that Iran does not have a military, use of nuclear, in Iran does not have a program for nuclear weapon. And also the Grossi yesterday, very late, also again. Therefore, we do believe we did not want, and we do not want, militarily or through the war of things, do anything against any player, including Israel. Although we do not just consider it illegitimate, but we just said, that a referendum in the whole territory of the Palestine be, just held, and all just Palestinian people, like Jews, Muslims, Christians, have one person, one vote. whatever the form of that government takes shape, whatever, Iran just recognize that. That's the way it is. But as you see, the Palestinian does not have, for example, a state, does not have their sovereignty. That's the reason Iran supports the resistance, that they, like, PLO, like any other, Palestinian, Iran did not want it to wipe out, or for example, something that they are accusing of militarily any player in the world, including Israel. We just want to give the right of the people to themselves. That's a very, just logical.
So when people say death to Israel, they don't mean...
No, they mean the policies. They mean not death, it means the wipe out it militarily. You see that Iran's practice is not that. It means there's to such policies that you are, just battering, the Palestinians. There's to that, for example, way of imposing, your, just sort of apartheid system of thinking. That these are the things. It's not that death that you are to wipe out. Iran is not going for attacking anybody, without, just for defense, maybe himself.
Okay. How long? I mean, given what Trump has said about 2 weeks, potentially this could prolong the war, the conflict for longer, sort of thing. But how long can Iran resist these Israeli attacks and counter and do its own sort of counter attacks, sort of thing?
Iran, I cannot, have this, for example, day or week or something. Iran does have a very suitable, just preparation for that. And it is not to the benefit of the Israeli regime. This conflict would be extended. That's to the detriment of them, not us. Therefore, should very soon stop, just the attacks against Iran. And Iran could go ahead and to defend itself, because this time we have to just show that the aggressor should be punished. Therefore, we do not have a limitation for that until the aggressor just be surrendered. Be surrendered. That takes back the attacks, and the United Nations Security Council condemn it formally. That and of course the arrangements in a way that could not repeat attacks against us again. This is the way that we can go ahead. We will continue our defensive measures.
So you can keep it up for as long as it's
yes, as much as needed.
Yeah, I mean, there's talk though about weakening the regime, the Iranian regime. Israel Katz's comments last night about how the Ayatollah cannot be allowed to live. The Shah's son urging an uprising, things like that. Certainly a lot of a feeling perhaps that this could be a moment in history where the regime falls. How secure is the Iranian?
First of all, the brazen and very arrogant and also illegal, just proposition of this Israeli official is condemned by itself. That threatens our supreme leader. It is very dangerous, for them, that to do such a bad, just and the alien-minded, way of thinking. First of all, I condemn such a proposition there. Then, after the attacks of Israel against us, consolidation and solidarity among Iran strengthened, further strengthened. There are a lot of evidence inside Iran. You see people, although maybe from different parties, different way of thinking, maybe they have domestically differences between themselves. This time they united. They are united, and they declared their solidarity to defend their just country. So I do believe that it is null and void, the thing that like a sort of changing or something in Iran, just political system. It's not none of their business to just comment on that. Therefore, as I told you, it is very bad, just ill-minded way to threaten our leader, and they have already attacked, our commanders, our, just scientists. The scientists that they are university professors. You can think of it yourself. Australia does have a lot of scientists. Anybody could dare, to attack them inside their home. It is tragic, Therefore, we don't care about such absurd and, just insane, just proposition that, Israeli officials are, just issuing, And we will continue, and we are just supported by our nation.
Would the assassination of the Supreme Leader be an escalation, a red line that Iran would have to respond even more ferociously?
Just have this short. They don't even should think of it. That's all. As much as tragic it is, they shouldn't think about it.
You've been in the past criticised for your social media activity and things like that, demands that you be expelled.
That was the same that I just explained. We didn't mean, wipe out something like, happening with militarily or something. It was a comment that the way that they were going, they do not give the right of the people, the socially, just putting pressure on Palestinians. This way is not the way that they can continue it. It was the main, essence of that, just comments,
So you felt you were misrepresented?
Of course.
Is that what you told our government?
Yeah, I explained to them when you said that we had, some consultation with IFAD, my colleagues. I explained fully to them that it was wrong, and also some lobbies, just was using it as a pretext, to be misunderstood.
So when Iran talks of wanting to annihilate Israel, when it supports terror groups to do that, when it works on nuclear programs in a way that has international concern, when it talks of building 3,000 ballistic missiles a month, is the suggestion. Israel shouldn't be worried about that, though. Is that essentially your position? This is just essentially rhetoric. This is not.
No, not rhetoric. No, we don't use it as rhetoric. All those capabilities, as you said, missile or other, way of, just whatever you say, it is for defensive measures. We do not just attack any player without, reason. Although we are attacked, by somebody, as it happened, you say. We didn't attack, anybody without a reason. You said they attacked inside Iran a political figure that was invited for inauguration of our presidential, ceremony. They attacked inside our, sovereignty and inside our territory and killed, for example, somebody that it was our, just guest. They attacked, our embassy in Damascus. For example, in any embassy there are military attaches in it. All of, just Mossad agents are all over in their embassies around the world. Could we, for example, anybody think that does have a right to go and inside the immunity, just that the embassies have, just attack somebody inside? But they have break any, you say that, legal and, just international regulations. So Iran is not, even, thousands of missiles, if Iran does have, is just only for defensive purpose.
Just to wrap up and go back to the Australian aspect, you said that you want our government to condemn Israel's attacks. If that condemnation doesn't come, what will that will that have any ramifications for the bilateral?
No, of course not. They are just a friendly recommendation. We do have very good relationship and friendly relations with Australia. We have, since inception in 1968, we kept our just relations at ambassadorial level. Therefore, just it was a sort of friendly advice because of the like-mindedness of our two countries with regard to peace, and just that way. So we keep just have our friendly relations with Australia and just keep on the consultation we do have.
Yeah.